Strauss is the mind, the mastermind behind this rule of life. She spent countless, Michelle has spent countless hours in the past 2 years working on this, along with the rest of the council, but really she's been the one spearheading this project. And so we just wanted to honor that by giving her the opportunity to share more, take any question, but also any question that, or any sharing from this morning. She's not officially on the council anymore, but she kind of is in a way, because she's lived enough long through the council. So I'd like to ask Michelle to come up here and share something and take questions. What did you say? They had enough coffee in their system. So, yes. Okay, just if you'd like to share something about how was it for you to work through the rule of life?
Torture. No, I feel like we have, like, if we're gonna have a Q&A, I feel like I should sit down.
Your official.
We can try this for a while, but it's good, then I'll stay awake, right? So, are we recording though? Do I need to be up here? Should I don't know how we should, maybe if we just turn and angle. Then you don't have to look at my face. There we go. Am I in? Welcome. There we go. Can't see everybody up there. So I'm sure you all have the rule of life memorized, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think I won't go over it because I'm sure you guys have all listened to the podcast too, but it was just, for all the craziness of 2020, you know, it was such a graceful time to, I mean, I still can remember where Michelle went, but sitting on my back deck and being like, what are we gonna do next? Where are we supposed to go? And just her words of, you know, like, we need to go find the fire again and build up the fire, go back to thinking about who we are and what we are and, you know, where we came from. And there was a random, like, it was like maybe 3-page thing that the Italians had started. It wasn't, I mean, I wasn't me that started it, you know, it came from all the way over there. And but just the conversations that came from those meetings, I mean, we would talk for 2.5 hours sometimes. And I mean, not too torturously, but it just really kind of came into that. And then going back and editing it and working on different sections of it was just really healing for me, I think, and really beautiful, like remembering of the past. And so yeah, it was just a graceful time. And you know, I was like, okay, I need to take a step back from the council. I need to, you know, attend to my state and life a little bit more, and you know, some other issues. And so I am not on the council anymore. I will just put that on the record, not on. And so I handed off the last edits that I did in March. And so I was like, oh, let's see what they cut out. Luckily they did, because I had like 3 or 4 more pages of there of total rambling that like didn't make sense. So anyway, I just kind of want to open up to you guys of anything that struck you, any questions you have, any particular, anything that's not clear, because there are things that are not clear in here. Yeah, so I just kind of want to open it up and I could ramble on and on, but I could start off with Odie over here about to say something. Yeah.
So you have, it's split up into mystical, ascetical, apostolic, and then belonging. Are those the 4 pillars?
No. So yeah, you know, Lauren and I joked that, you know, that would have been a good ordering principle, was to go by the pillars. But the original Italian document kind of had it set up with the 3 aspects of any charism. So the mystical, ascetical, and apostolic. And so that's kind of where that originated from. But then you'll see in there as you go through it how the different pillars are kind of articulated under each aspect of the charism. You know, so for example, you know, we look at prayer, for example, under the mystical aspect of it. And we had a really great conversation in our small group about this morning, but that, okay, yeah, we emphasize mental prayer, meditation, you know, but even within the charism, let's say, let's look at the mystical aspect of how we pray in this charism. There is something unique in it compared to the general concept of mental prayer stated in the catechism, or that Opus Dei does, or some other charism does, that we are looking at in our prayer, in our mental prayer. I mean, it goes back again to that icon of the woman at the well. Like, how is, the mystical aspect is how Jesus attends to us, how his initiative, how he comes after us. So in our mental prayer, the mystical aspect of that is that he is coming to me in my concrete experience, just like the woman at the well. We look at the woman, and like, how even in my prayer am I receiving, Jesus is trying to reach me personally. Like, how is he, and then we look at prayer under the ascetical aspect. Okay, how in this charism, the ascetical aspect is our response. So how am I responding in prayer, and so that's, we then respond to him with our full self, in our state in life, in our concrete experience, so we start to see how those pillars are lived out in each of those aspects, if that makes sense at all.
And then I would assume, if I take that example of prayer, when we get into that apostolic aspect, it's basically fulfilling what in essence he's asking of us.
So like that, yeah, the apostolic aspect is that overflowing. So we're receiving from him in prayer and responding to him in prayer. And the apostolic aspect is then how does that overflow to others in effect?
How's it activated within our life experience?
Yeah, and how we teach it to others. I mean, all of you were, so like Mary had a beautiful example. Sorry to put you on the spot. When we were in our small group, and her daughter has a 1-year-old or 3-year-old, and she calls her and says, "Mom, it's 5 p.m. and I haven't been able to pray yet. So my invitation," and people are like, "Oh, come over." And just her making sure that she allows her daughter the next time for her own personal prayer. Now, if that is not an apostolic thing to think about, not just your prayer, like making sure that someone you care for has that time. That's what Emily was saying about Nico earlier, is okay, telling the kids, no, you can't go there. Dad is having this time with Jesus and vice versa. That to me is, how do we live out prayer in the apostolic sense, or Jocelyn teaching the students that they used to see. So what does prayer look like? From a campus minister perspective, just passing on to others the importance of mental prayer.
Mary.
So when we pray and then set our resolution, the apostolic part can come from that as well. Because resolutions aren't solely just for us, right? The greater good. So that would be where that's springboarding.
And that's kind of in a sense why it'd be kind of hard to organize this based on the pillars too, because they are so integrated too. Like you see how the prayer affects the apostolic, how in the formation plays a part in the prayer. And so in that sense, the Italians were wise beyond their knowing, right? Pull out a nugget or two. I was put on the agenda, the notes on the agenda. So always be ready to give a response, right? Always be ready to about your hope. Well, a couple I'll just throw something out there, but raise your hand if you guys have any interjections too. But the part on hospitality, I'll just share that little one there.
Keep the number.
Yeah, I was just flipping through that. I thought it was 11, but let's see, we're under ascetical. Number 12. Yeah. That was one of those, like, I think we, especially early on in family, when we, at least in Lawrence, where we're always meeting together and we have a meal together, it was just always this like very homey kind of hospitality thing. And the word hospitality kind of kept getting floated around and all that, but it was one of those things that I remember sitting in the council meeting, and this aspect of hospitality was in the Italian rule of life. And I'm like, why is that? What is that? Yeah, that is part of us, but why? And it was just really lovely thinking over that. But I came across, months later, this little meditation on hospitality and that image of Moses when he encountered the Holy Trinity, and just how this aspect of hospitality so fits with our charism because it's just that encountering the person who shows up, and dropping your jar and attending to them and being present to them. And so that really helped me kind of understand, why hospitality has been kind of in that back pocket of this whole time too. So that was a fun one for me to kind of put words to. And I don't know. Oh, go ahead.
Well,
Yeah,
I would add that, and it's not always necessary just dropping the job.
true. Yeah.
Because there are times, for example, I do volunteer work at food bank. And sometimes for some reason, someone coming through the food bank just stop and they want to chat with me.
Hmm.
So it's not like I'm dropping what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of, but it's like I'm taking the time to listen, ask questions, respond, whatever. Or the simple same thing of being in the grocery line. And just being cordial and
Hospitable.
smiling. I mean, just
It's an apostle, be hospitable.
recognizing that there's someone right there with you,
Yeah.
as opposed to ignoring the person.
Yeah. And it's also when you talk about like not dropping the jar, the thing that came to my mind was, with kids, especially with little kids, is like bringing them into what you're doing, because so many times it's like, let me take care of that and I'll get to you, keeping them at a distance. But when you invite people into what you're doing also, and I think as family members, that would be a great way for us to build our relationships, like, because doing work together, whether it's spiritual or physical, is a way to engage each other, to enter into relationship with each other too. So,
Yeah.
so that,
Poor little Joseph yesterday spent, I don't know, his sisters at least for a half hour, 45 minutes, throwing those bean bags into the cornhole. And he was sat there, he watching. They disappeared, they left. So I just turned that thing around, said, do you want to throw? Yeah. Gave him the bags, and he just threw it for a while. Sitting in that chair with that broken leg.
Our hospitality, I was very grateful also for what Alexa said this morning, because coming from Italy and hearing the word hospitality in my mind is like very specific. Make sure you have drinks on the table and bread and food and stuff like that, like hospitality in that sense. But then the way she said, making room in the heart, listening, be open to have somebody in your life, in you, is not just that part of being in my house or having food enough or things like that. So that's a part and expression of it. But even the woman at the well, was welcomed by Jesus in that way. It wasn't what I have in mind when I hear hospitality, which is kind of a bigger, broader way.
And I was thinking about unity throughout this whole thing. Again, Alexis, meditation, unity of spirit, but also unity in hospitality and all our apostolic work too. In that University of their apostles, there is unity in how maybe I never approaches this the apostolic works. Important to make people feel the same joy and peace within the listening, sharing, and spiritual experiences of life. Yeah, there's this underlying spirituality that we all have, and which we are becoming others and us. And we're not together. And it's together.
was there anything in the rule that anyone has found that like, how do I want to say this? That's felt, I don't want to say condemning, but that was like, oh, I never do that, or oh, I can't ever do that, or does that make sense? Like, did anybody have any experience with that, or
No,
no?
it really resonates. Yeah, it really captured, I felt,
Mhm. Mhm.
in a very simple, but detailed enough way.
Mhm.
And
It wasn't just, even though they keep saying that, it's not.
I really try to look at it as somebody who, like back in the day when I was a dad with kids, you know, what's like for them is so simple for me right now. But yeah, kind of look at it that way, and I just couldn't really see anything that really seemed like a red flag. that we can go to. We seem to work pretty hard at trying to make it.
It's also plain English, you know, anybody could make up a sense of what our community is. And I say that because when family members or friends have asked me,
Yeah,
what is the apostle nature, like we explain? I mean, I can go on and on and on and probably on so many different levels and tangents. But if I just say, do you want to read about us? You know, and hand them this, and then that way they have the opportunity to read a couple pages and close it. If they don't, whereas with me talking, they might not shut me up, right? But they can, and then they can pick up later and, or just say, I read a couple pages, it's not for me. So no one's offended, I guess in a way, it's plain and simple, it's right here, these are the facts, basically. If it doesn't resonate with you, so be it, you know, it's not for you, but it does, and you're encouraged to read on, and then ask questions, and then you can discuss. It's just nice to have something put down. Yeah, it would be nice to have something like that.
Yeah, I felt like I was encountering the family. And were certain things that they were the reflect on how I've been doing the pasta in the parish, and just like coming back to this personal encounter and the which 10 the communities of young simplicity, it overcomplicate things. So I felt like family was here speaking through this. In a gentle way, like bring me back to what we were doing. Yeah, to receive his love. To his parents, everything. Reflect on it and just living it out. And encouraging it.
I think that one of the things that really jumped out to me in this is how, in essence, it's broad enough, customized enough for me to, for any of us to live out the charism in our calling with where we are in our life, because it's going to look different for both of us. And it allows us to basically, like in apostolic work, to do that within what we feel we are being called to. I had a group I was looking at joining at one point in time, and when it was to the point of joining, I was told that I would be doing visiting prisons on Saturday mornings. But the problem is, and that was supposed to be my apostolic work, the problem is, and I told her, says, I am called to provide spiritual ministry, spiritual direction for men, and I do that on Saturday mornings. That's the time available. She would not accept what I felt called to. That's my 3 o'clock reminder to pray.
It's like a historical fact.
They, you know, rather than accepting what I was being called to as the work to do, I was being told I had to do something that I was not being called to. And that's one of the things I really love about this charism is you go where God calls you.
And then makes me think of like, was it St. Irenaeus, that the glory of God is man fully alive. But I think there is something in, and we kind of touched on this in our small group this morning, that when you like, we'll kind of touch on it when talking about, our world is becoming so black and so white, and it's this division, divide, either you have to be on one side or the other kind of thing. But, the apostolic aspect of attending to the person in front of you also means attending to yourself and using the life of God in you to the fullness, and it's this robust faith that I think we seek with it, and that was something with the sisters, with the intellectual formation that they received. That was one thing that drew me to them, was that you're not just this spiritual wishy-washy, like God is love. It's not just this soft, fuzzy, like everything's great, but like, no, your stuff, like even the church fathers or the history and all this. And so it's the glory of God is man fully alive. And I think that's a part of our charism, is that through our prayer, through our formation, that we're really looking to integrate this and bring it into our state and life. And there was something that Clara was saying this morning, that because we're like, okay, you can get spiritual direction in other charisms, you can do prayer in other charisms. Like, what is it that continues, like, and not to make like ourselves exclusionary, but recognizing the gift that we've been given. I think what Caitlin was saying earlier, I feel like for me has empowered me and been like, oh, right, like, okay, yeah, this is me and I can do this. But Clara was talking about this overflow, like we receive this and there's this overflow to others. But in the apostolic aspect, in this charism, it is so diverse. It is so different. And it's so, it's about how I do it. And sometimes it's about how we do it. And sometimes it's about how 4 or 5 people do it. But there's just such a diverse way. It's not a black and white. It's not, you have to do prison ministry, you have to do this, and you have to do it on this day. But it's the glory of God is man fully alive. And and so in that sense, like Clara was talking about, you give what you received. So if you have received how to do daily prayer, then you pour that out and you give it to somebody, you teach them how to do daily prayer. If you know your philosophy and you are a cultural person and you want to talk about how to defeat cultural Marxism, then you take your prayer and your formation and you can pour that out to someone else. And we don't have to all be this fit into the same cookie cutter mold, but we can be that mosaic out there. We can be the, and let the light shine through in all different aspects to touch more souls. And so it was just the way Clara thought. I was like, can you repeat that? I need to write that down. But at the same time too, there are those, like we said, those kind of common characteristics that it is from our daily prayer. We're receiving our belovedness from the Lord. It is, generally attending to the person in front of us, or small groups, like in general, we're not the, like, go feed the 5,000 kind of charism, it is about, so there are these common characteristics, which also I thought was very like, enlivening to me also, like Caitlin was saying, because I'm like, yeah, that I can do, like, I don't feel like I'm a person who can go feed the 5,000 or go work with the poorest of the poor or different things like that. So
This makes me think, as we were talking about the fact that every family member reaches out apostolically in so many different ways, I cannot but think about Deacon Steve White's funeral. So Deacon Steve White was one of the founding members, first members of the family, along with his wife Lisa, and we were blessed to be at his funeral in at the end of January of 2022, a year and a half ago.
oh yeah.
And Steve was a veterinarian. A very
Veterinarian.
long
Okay.
translation.
Veterinarian, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
How do you say it?
Veterinarian, yeah.
Oh, veterinarian. I know. Okay, thank you. Veterinarian.
I knew it.
And to hear, I mean, to be at that funeral mass and to hear the testimonies of people that encountered him. Now, most of his career, I mean, life was attending pets. But the way he was ministering to the owners and the children is often, he would have to talk to children about what would happen to their pets. I mean, it was just from that word in heaven, that for those of you who were at the mass, it was very unique. And I was very struck in hearing the testimonies of 2 of his colleagues, one of them being the head of the clinic where he was working.
And from what I understood, at least one of them was not a religious man, but how Steve had impacted him and then just through him living out, being literally someone who cared for their interior life. It was just amazing. So that's what strikes me. But there's no profession whatsoever that anyone is involved in that is off limits from bringing this charism. I would just close with one line. I recently did my spiritual exercises, and the priest that led my spiritual exercises, Father Gus, he gave me one line that was like a punch in the stomach, but a good one, because it was on the spirituality of St. Francis de Sales, who's my favorite saint, and this priest is part of the religious community connected to St. Francis de Sales, who's known to be the doctor of gentleness. Right? And so I was reflecting with him and I said, Father, what strikes me about St. Francis de Sales is his gentleness. And let me give you a list of the times when I am not gentle. And I started listing, and one of them is when I cry. Another one is when I'm on some kind of customer service calling, complaining about internet or anything else that is not working. And so that's what I told him, when I'm driving, I am not gentle. And his line was, bring the interior life on the road. Bring your life on the road.
Yeah.
And then he added, be on the road who you chose to be, like an apostle of interior life. He said, you chose to be an apostle of interior life, you need to be that on the road. Like, that's a killer. But I pass it on to you, because to me, Deacon Steve was an apostle of interior life in his work. And I can look at all of you and I know that you are apostles in your life, extending the family of the apostles wherever you are. And that to me is what makes it unique. Is that you take care of your interior life and care of others. Right? I see that. That's beautiful to watch. I'm just going this.
What country are you in right now? Oh, wait.
Hold on.
She can't, sorry, she won't be able to. I was just wondering what country you are in right now. Southern Florida, Northern Florida.
Done.
For those of you who don't-
Sasha, can you hear us?
There's Shouldn't do it. Listen to the recording for that.
Can you hear us? I was connecting to audio now. Let's see. Sasha, can you hear us now?
Yeah.
Yes.
I got you. Sorry.
Get it.
That's a great big toe you have.
Thank you.
We were just wondering what country you're in right now.
I'm in a state of confusion. Also known as Florida. I'm really glad you made it.
Florida.
Yeah.
Okay. We're just chatting.
Okay.
Mute myself. There's the echo.
I'll just listen and be quiet. Okay, you're all muted.
We're discussing the real life. Can you hear us now? Okay. We can't hear you because if we turn you on, there's this like really awesome echo, ciao, ciao, ciao. Anyway, we were just, anything else? I just want to touch on another one too about the suffering, like, that's not one that I think, if you had gone like to Mary and said, oh, what's your charism about? Like, it's about suffering. We're family after all, right? We suffer. But I think we've seen through the years, just how, we used to joke, like right after college, when we were all starting to get involved in this, we're like, so if we become like part of the health and interior life, we're gonna get some kind of strange disease. Because it was just like, people would come up with these like random autoimmune things and all that, but I think, especially we've seen it in Sister Tatiana's journey of just this aspect of suffering. And this is something that kind of struck me after I was off the council and working on this last edit. And so I just kind of put it in there. We're like, let's see if they notice or if I'm even on the right page. But I'm just going to read, this is number 14, and I'm just going to read it and offer it for whatever it is. But it says, every wound or suffering has the characteristic of receptivity. It has the power to open us to others' suffering. But it also has a characteristic of offering. Because we are baptized Christians, we participate in the priesthood of Christ. The ABI charism gives particular attention to this gift of our baptism. Living out the priestly aspect of the charism, the ABI family member desires to offer the personal sufferings for their own redemption, the redemption of others, and for the glory of God. The ABI family member is particularly spiritually united with fellow members of the family through the personal offering of their suffering. I think we saw that in Deacon Steve when he was dying, in Jeannie Sherman, for those of you who knew her and her dying, Tatiana and her whole aspect. And I think it's, to me, again, it's like the woman at the well that we receive this suffering in a sense, but it's for this pouring out, for this gift to others. So again, it's this receiving and this responding, this receiving, this offering, and to see it in that concept of the actual sufferings, whether it be spiritually, materially, physically, I feel like that's like their secret powerhouse and this charism too, that just and I think Will was saying, this morning too, that sometimes the only thing you can do for a person for their interior life is to offer up your suffering, because they don't want to hear it. They're not ready to change. They're not ready for, to learn about prayer or, anything like that. But to be able to offer our sufferings for them is, kind of that secret. Not that I do it well or desire it or want it, but but is that also that sacrament of the moment kind of thing that, whatever God is giving us, in a sense, that suffering, and we are present to it and are able to use that in our moment, instead of ignoring and be like, I'm fine, I'm good, but to really use that sacrifice for his glory too. So that was, yeah.
About this in the history even of the community, that aspect of the charism was made explicit most recently. So it was about 2019, 2020, around that time that we verbalized that and realized that it's more part of the charism. So it's a recent addition. And if you look at history, it was a time in which, with the pandemic and what happened in the community, we were going through some sort of desert.
Oh yeah.
That brought a different food that is not like the 5,000 people that you reach, but was more like probably accepting that desert in which you are going through some things you don't know very well, trusting that there is food for it. And so that historically how it came up right in our eyes in that moment.
do you guys have something written on that too? Like,
It's not official. We brought
Yeah.
reflection that we share with each other, but
Yeah.
it's so new that it's not stable as the one of life.
sure,
So we have a spring of water.
That's right, yeah, on-
It counts of reflection, so it's not official, but
Sure.
it's more of a spiritual application
Mhm,
of that, more in the experience of the sisters and the people that you take on.
mhm. Wow. Cause I remember that, as you were saying that, I was like, oh, there was that spring water series.
Quite meditation on.
Yeah. So then I feel like with like something that was also cool of this would be like, okay, well, we could do like, okay, this year we're focusing on number 10, you know, and like it could lead to just much more like meditation and, you know, discussion on these aspects. So that was really helpful for me too. Like,
It's something to, follow up with what Clara said. Specifically, during the 2020, 2021, which as you all know was difficult for us sisters. And it's no surprise that it was difficult for the family as well, right? Because we are united. And so, but in that time, I go back, the last part of number 12 just strikes me a lot to read it, so because I mean, I get choked up sometimes when I read this, but it says, in filial love and gratitude, via VI family, pursue desires. Place rest and support. With the apostle in your life, who remain the guardians of the temple. Then I say that, being around the family members has been a tremendous help. Me, for me personally, the brass as a community, just to know that, for the ups and downs of what was happening, there was stability. Like, family members who were scattered in different parts of the country were like a stable support for us, and that was just tremendous. That's why I can't do that life without joking that. So, and I'm sure that I'm not just speaking for myself, but for all of us sisters in saying that this is more than, well, there's a family on the side. It's, I mean, you carried us through some of the difficult moments, and then, you know, for us to have to carry you through, so it's been very mutual. So it, again, to me, that those 3 lines are very, very telling of that suffering. We're one body. And so when one part of the body is suffering, the rest of the family is suffering, and vice versa. But it's been a tremendous support for each of us. So I want you to know that.
Ooh, thanks be to God. You almost had the floods going here, so. I think that, you know, I don't know if maybe Mary, if you can speak to this too, but I feel like, kind of early on too, you know, we've received so much from the sisters too, but I think we also wanted to, I think that's been a desire from the beginning, is to be a place too, where we can offer to you, where we can, you know, and so like, that way, it was Katie Burton too, who kind of, I remember that conversation out on my back deck again that summer of just like, that's what we want to be for the sisters too. It's just like a place where they don't have to be the ones, you know, always giving and giving and giving, but that they can just be with us, you know, and just in your own unique and unrepeatability and your own gifts and everything. So that was like a hope and a desire, was to be that place, you know, where like you want to just be with us. So I'm glad that, I hope it continues to grow and develop, and that we can offer to you a little bit that you've offered to us, and that we can continue to grow in that fruit. So. I guess a question to you all too about the formation aspect, you know, because what would you like to see as far as a continued formation? I think, you know, there's kind of that basic formation, obviously, that we need to give to people who are entering into the family, you know, and hopefully it'll kind of, you know, from this rule of life and all that, but how can we, and then there's the formation that I think we all kind of have as our own culpability, you know, in our state and life, you know, like I, as a mother, homeschooling mom, like, you know, I need to continue to pursue formation that's going to help me to do that to the best of my ability as God wants me to do, you know, as a teacher, as a lawyer, as a doctor, like we all have the accountability, not just to learn our profession, but how is God calling us to be more Catholic in our profession. But as far as like a formation that could be unitive amongst us, does anybody have any hopes or desires or things you'd like to talk about more, or ways that we could do that better also? Thoughts on that? Or-
They give a book club. Cody, was that you that mentioned your, yeah, when they brought it back?
Yeah.
Because I've noticed, and as an educator, I mean, you know, books have formed, and in my profession, but also in another, trying to form our children with books and talk about the vice and the virtue in so many different possible books, and I don't know, that's just what sparks my interest.
Yeah.
And I just really resonate with the books and the characters and what's going on and how I can model after, you know, a character that I feel is really inspiring, and even the books on the saints, of course. My former spiritual director, every year, I would have one spiritual reading, just one book a year. Being mom of 6 and working as a professional as well. But we would really delve into that particular text, and every month we would talk about what you read and you know, where you're going with that, and how can you live that in your own life. And was it necessarily well, it was mostly helpful, but because I'm completely and utterly in love with it. But also other books too. So that to me was really helps in my knowledge.
Yeah.
I got an email once, maybe 2 years ago. Remember exactly when Helen Hudson, and we read and discussed online, it was only like 3 or 4 of us. Most of the this. Helen Hudson did. Passionately into Christ. It was such a powerful book. It was focused on meditation. And I'm thinking it's a family members and other people since then. And that was a wonderful experience. And I thought, I thought that was great. You know, it's all involved in other things, and yeah, but that was a great thing. I'm not agreeing with this old one. Love. Yeah, but I don't, I never been a face to face. I said, one thing, you know, usually in our home, we send it out, so we find all this fruit.
You asked the question. I'm now at a point where I'm retired. But it makes sense, we are in a family, the first thing I thought about was what would I have wished I had formation wise earlier in my life, especially as a young married person. And I don't know if this is what guys within this family might need, that are in their 20s or 30s or whatever, but I know I needed it. Maybe because they're here, they may have already figured this stuff out. But it's, you know, things along the line of when you get so caught up in doing what the world taught in terms of to be a good husband and father, I have to work hard and work all the time and get food on the table, a roof over the head, et cetera, and where family many times became secondary. Is that type of formation that would have helped me, that it took a long, slow time to learn what it really means to be married, to be a husband, to be a father, and to be a spiritual one of those type of things. I would have figured out before my 50s I had something earlier deform me just in those kinds of roles.
Mhm.
And what love truly was.
Mhm.
What is that? You know, didn't find out about what love truly is a sacrificial love. You know, like because you're in your marriage, you know. What I tell guys now is if you're in marriage for what you're going to get out of it, you are in marriage for the wrong reason. You know, it's about what you give, what you're willing to give.
Mhm.
And so that's the first thought that came to my mind in terms of because we are a family, what are the family things I wish I had
Mhm.
when I was in my 20s and my 30s.
Mhm.
I'm gonna interject just because Kevin did such a great job. I'm kind of monitoring the audio, and so if you're a little bit farther away, or tend to have a softer voice. Kevin just gave a great example of how to speak so that we can all hear. So you just be attentive to raising your voice just a little bit, so the people online.
Sasha already knows some of that story.
One thing that I also would like to say that, it's practical, but it also kind of answers your question. There's, Sasha, can you hear me? Okay, perfect. Everything that we've been doing for the past 3 years online is now on the family YouTube channel. So all the formation talks, everything is up there. So if there's something that you've missed, or you're like, oh, I heard that there was a whole series on this or that, on suffering, whatever, it's on the ABI family YouTube channel, so that, just to keep that in mind, there's a lot of topics that we sisters and the council have been trying to throw out there, but if there is like a particular topic, I mean, by all means, and it doesn't have to come from us. If any of you has a specialty, something saying, okay, I would love to share information on this, I mean, just bring it up to the council, we'll make it happen. So, in a way, and it says here in the rule of life, I don't recall exactly where, that we grow, oh, here, it's number 11. It says, therefore, the ABI family member receives ongoing information. This information is not only received from the ABI sisters, but from fellow family members, as we as laity can add a richness to our continuing information due to the varied experiences of our states in life. I'm thinking, Katie and Michael Polito, they started a ministry for the divorced people in Kansas City. I don't even know if they know that in Cincinnati, there are 2 of the women of the family in Cincinnati who are also working and starting a group for people that are divorced. So, and people working in for life. There are different family members who have different knowledge that is very much valuable. We just don't know sometimes. So by all means, even if you read a book or you have something that you know you can contribute, so that is where ABI family can form each other. And we sisters are ready to take notes, like literally to learn from what you have to share that we don't know if we're not out there in the world.
Yeah, and I think today is also a good desire of the sister to hear the charism lived out in family, like family with children and husband and wife, but then also in the professional world, because also for us, we don't work. And so we don't know what are the opportunities and the challenges as much as you do. And when we are talking with younger people, we would like to know, talking with younger people, what comes from the charism that can help them in preparing for those, right? So not just ministry, but being a Catholic in the world, in those professions. And I remember when we were at KU, we were pairing up students, a senior or somebody with some family members who are in the same field. And that was very fruitful, knowing that they could talk to somebody Catholic who wouldn't just be blind about what the world is asking of us and what are the opportunities. And so I would take notes if you share about what happens when you are a teacher, what happens when you are, cutting hair, and what are the challenges and the opportunities there, because younger people will not know it from the catechism.
Yeah. I think on that note too, for those of you at Texas A&M or whatever, getting the like college students, like family, AVI families who have families, because that was completely instrumental in my life, just being able to be with the Donaldsons and their kids and, experience, because it was like, well, what is my next step in life and what is that going to look like, or what do I want to look like? And having like that experience under my belt before I graduated was like, okay, now I'm ready for it. Of course, the Lord made me wait a few more years, but that's okay. I'm not bitter. I'm better. But it's really key in that too, to get them plugged into.
I just have a question. I don't want the director, but was a voice.
I can repeat too.
Just with the director, I'm curious if you can add something and just, we know where you're at, we know your name, kind of contact you, but we don't know
Anything else?
that, like, if you're a teacher and you're working with a life movement or you're
Yeah.
a doctor, like, you just know. Profession and possibilities to have that direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem is finding it and it being sort of
Static.
static.
Yeah.
Rather than notebook style or something where we can have people do it.
Yeah. But
Somebody has a gift of creating and maintaining a directory like that with more information.
Yeah. So, I'm going to ignore what Layla told me one time, that if you have an idea, you have to take responsibility for it. Right now, I'm saying that I cannot be responsible for this, but on the website, which I know is kind of funny to get to, and maybe we can figure that out, but they did, Lauren was trying to do like little stories of people, and I could foresee, like, again, I'm not volunteering for this, I'm not taking responsibility for this, but again, doing a 5 to 10 minute podcast interview with different family members of like, hey, here's Charlotte Ostman. How did you join the family? What are your interests? So that's one thing. I think we could either do it, go back to the website, have Lauren post those. She'd send out a little questionnaire, but and then there was another thing as far as like formation opportunities or apostolate opportunities. Like Charlotte actually had the idea of, if there was just a tab on the website and say like, hey, I am hosting this book club in Lawrence on these days and this days, please come join. I'd love to have it. Or, hey, I'm doing this on, like, I think there's still some people who don't realize that there's that Saturday morning online group. And I'm pretty sure maybe they would let somebody else in every once in a while. If you pay them good, they might let you in. Sure. Yeah. So just having that as a place where people could, either post like, hey, we're having a dance at our house, come out and dance this weekend, things, more cultural experiences too, if there's things that you live out that way. But if anybody's being called to, use their computer engineering skills to develop that, Holy Spirit.
I don't know if this already exists, but maybe more like a podcast would be great, but something that's searchable. So
Yes.
if I could type in doctor and it lists out everybody in the family who's a doctor, and then I could look based off of location, right? And look up somebody with that, I think that would be very useful. Connecting people as opposed to having to listen to it and then apply.
Sure.
Figure out what
Yeah, some kind of little database or something like that. But again, I'm not skilled in those areas. I just come up with ideas sometimes and not taking responsibility.
This is just coming in my mind. I'm gonna throw it out there anyway, because I remember when we sent our son away to college and how scary that was. And I've not talked to my wife about this, but my wife and I are empty nesters. And if there's anyone who's sending a son or daughter to KU and want them to live with the family, I have 2 bedrooms open. So. Sorry, Texas people. But I'm saying, what a great resource. I'm thinking in Marriage Encounter, one of the things that helped us tremendously because and I assume this is the same for women, but that comes to a point where a daughter won't listen to you. And I know that a son at a certain age just, dad doesn't know anything. So we divvy up the men got together, we divvy up our sons among each other as substitute fathers and the fathers
Or mentors.
mentors.
There you go.
And we basically reached out, and it's like the kid that I took, it says we took him on vacation with us. Because he was just a couple years younger than our youngest. And this thing, and there are other dads who took and the guy who took my son, who we butted head constantly, got him into cycling, got him into other stuff, and which he took, he was a triathlete from then on out, type of thing, but it's like, it helped tremendously to have that type of thing go on, and I'm thinking the same thing, just if we can help some others with their child when they're in a foreign place for a while, I would seriously consider it and might be able to talk my wife.
It might be able to-
She would, especially having raised three boys, and I'm including the husband in that. She would probably especially love girl in the house. She loves the granddaughter, so.
Wow. So something else that we talked about, I'm just sort of, I think those are the benefits that talked about, I have a hard time hearing you, because of that chair.
We talked about this a little bit with the council, and we're kind of getting to this point where I think it's about to be relevant. I'm gonna throw it out there. We'd like to see the 7 inquirers be accompanied by a particular family member or 2. So if you feel called to that, to accompany them really in a personal way, be a very, be a presence for them in some way. If you feel called to that, let me know, because we're gonna get to that place where they're gonna start that formation in September. And so I think building that relationship over the summer and accompanying them through their formation for the next year or 2 would be great. So that's another way to, because I think what happened with the last group of people that came into the family, it was such a large group that they came in and they just kind of felt like they were just kind of out there. And we just don't want that to happen. And it doesn't matter if there were 7 of them or 37 of them. We've got enough people to form those intimate relationships now. So, I'll do that thing that I just suggested, and I'm gonna make those matches if you feel called to do that.
And I think Jocelyn said something very interesting that I was thinking earlier in our small group, and she was talking about how important it was for her during her formation time to have a conversation with Emily. And again, sometimes it can just be a one-time phone call, or it can be just checking in, but that one-on-one accompaniment just makes you feel you're not just one number, but there's someone that actually cares for you. And these 7 inquirers are actually, we can list them so that you can start praying for them if you haven't done so yet. And then you can familiarize with them. So let's start from College Station. There is Elizabeth Gino. She graduated from A&M, I believe, in 2016. So she's a young professional. We see her at church almost every day. Beautiful young woman. And then let me go. Brian. Sorry, Brian, if you're watching this, I cannot pronounce your last name. It's something like Bowden. It's Carolyn Leatherman's husband. So we're joking.
French accent.
Yeah, we're joking. We're calling him Brian Leatherman because that was Carolyn's middle name. But Brian, sorry if you're watching this. So Brian married Carolyn. They live in College Station.
And
They
they
just
had
had a
their first
baby.
baby.
Yes, a beautiful
I didn't
Caleb.
Congratulations.
So Brian is now with the discerning the family. Then let's move up to Kansas. We have Isaac Taylor. He graduated from KU with an architecture degree a year ago. Now he works and lives in Overland Park. Great young man, very, very faithful. And then there's Lori Puckett. She lives, I think 30 miles around Topeka. I don't know if it's west or south somewhere, in Kansas, like Lori Puckett lives in Kansas. Special ed teacher. Then we have Rich Pace right here in front of us from Champaign, Illinois, married to Joy. And he's known as Cicero since 1999, so he's been a saint.
He survived
ever
the
since.
fail.
Yeah, he survived the
The
Italian tornado in Champaign. And then we have Rita Borowski up in Wisconsin. I believe she might be retired. I don't know what her profession was.
She's my spiritual leader.
Okay, her spiritual mentor.
She also just had a serious operation for cancer.
Yeah.
She's on,
Yeah, cancer in her lungs, I believe it was. Yes, pray for Rita.
But she's gonna start, doing mentorship.
Okay, yes, she also went through the mentorship program, so she's going back to mentoring.
Yeah.
Yes,
So.
I know I'm missing someone else.
Linda Schmidt?
Linda Schmidt from Cincinnati, Ohio. Linda's story is beautiful. So we've had a group of family members in Cincinnati, Ohio for many years. And then Linda showed up and she had never met any of the sisters, but all she would hear was about us through this group of family members. And so now when we sisters went, Sister Michaela and myself went to Cincinnati in September and we met her for the first time, it was like meeting a long friend, like from many years ago, because it seems that she knew us and we knew her because she had been receiving so much from the charism all along. So again, these are the people that we invite you to pray for and consider, accompanying and just getting together. And it could be, maybe someone with the younger ones, but it doesn't matter. It could be across, cross-pollination. There's so much growth with that. Also, in terms of prayer requests, yesterday morning, we received a request from Susan Zollner from the Cincinnati family. She wrote, and I'm reading, sister, I was just diagnosed with breast cancer. We caught it at an early stage, but will be a journey. Will you and the AVI sisters please add me to your prayer list? And I asked her if I could share with the family. She said, that would be perfect. So thank you. So adding Susan to our prayer. And I know we want to be respectful of time. Is there, before we thought about the voting for the, the moving the family promises to the end of May and potentially putting back on some, back the donations or due whatever contributions. We thought that we might put the actual voting to after this event so that we can collect also others. But is there any question or comments about this? If anyone has anything to add, let's start specifically with moving promises to the end of May. Do you see a value in doing that? Do you see the reasoning behind it? Is there any reservation? Is there any thought, we should probably keep it on January 1st because it's a solemnity, whereas the end of May is not going to be always the same day because Memorial Day, of course, moves with the Monday. Would like to hear you because we just threw it out there, but would like to hear if there is any confirmation like, oh, that's a great idea, or maybe not before we actually move it to then the voting. And same thing for the contributions. Joey.
They wanted to share with the Italian family renewal promises and then how that dovetails.
Okay, yes. So the Italian family traditionally has been renewing promises on May 1st. For one simple reason, because in Italy, May 1st is a national holiday and it is St. Joseph. Now in the US, unfortunately, it is not. But we thought, well, we're still in the month of May, so it's the month of Mary, and although it's not a set day of the month because Memorial Day is on Monday and it moves, it would still be a possibility to be within the month of Mary. So that's one thought. So we would be in communion with the Italian family, them starting the month of May and us closing the month of May and just giving those graces. That's all.
Well, at first, I was thinking, oh, well, if we're gonna change it, why don't we do it like May 13th or May 8th or whatever associated marriage, but then I thought in terms of, but if we are gonna do something like this routinely at the end of May, I said, well, that makes a whole lot more sense to me, and as you said, it's still Mary's month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think a little bit in terms of there's, so like the school year has. People, I don't know, sometimes having our January promises, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I would assume that families with kids, if they know, or teachers, is like, okay, school is over, I can actually take the kids on a road trip, or I can be a little bit freer, you know, from a lot of concerns from school and be able to do that. You like the idea?
I like the idea that it's close to Pentecost. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
We're gonna spend on that.
Well, and if, and I would think that if we're gonna do it on this weekend, we would do it on the Sunday regardless of
Mhm.
the Memorial Day.
Correct. It's always on Monday, yeah.
So we would do it on the Sunday, and which would be
Mhm.
sometimes Pentecost.
Yeah.
But at least, again, that creates that, time of gathering, which is gonna be probably the most gathering of the family that they're gonna be.
Yeah. And we wouldn't be running into snowstorms, which of course we all know what Kansas weather looks like on January 1st. So now also one of the thoughts is, as I mentioned, potentially if we were to try to do something like this every other year, the beautiful thing would be to rotate location to allow for different family members to take ownership and also to be a place of vacation potentially. So Mary this morning, they live in Colorado, and I don't even know if she's talked to Brian about it, but she threw out, you know, I'm willing to help out. And we honestly, on the council, we had thought about.
We have the same, I'm gonna through that out. We have.
Brian, did you hear that, Sasha? Apparently, Mary and Brian at 2 different tables had thrown out offering Denver, Colorado as the next place in 2 years. Sounds like the Holy Spirit is at work.
I will point out that Brian also had a location in mind. And it's actually the YMCA, I forget the official name of it, Canton Fraser, which is very inexpensive to live in. They have groups of cabins, beautiful waterfalls back in it, horseback riding.
Sign us up.
All
Will and Michelle will ride their horse from the ranch all the way up to. Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like we will go into the actual voting so that everybody will have a chance, but it sounds like there is consensus, which makes us happy because we've been desiring to give more family members an opportunity to actually be together for promises, knowing that those who cannot be there in person will still have a chance, of course, to zoom in and be present. So we will do that. We'll have the voting. We'll send out another email this week that we can solidify that. And then the other question is about bringing back some level of contributions. Again, dues, maybe because I'm Italian, sounds very scary and very businessy. But maybe it's just how I translate the word dues. It sounds like it's due, it's mandatory. But the idea is more about contribution. I think there was Katie Polito that was talking a few months ago about, why don't we call it contribution? Are there any thoughts, any suggestions? Do you see the value of why kind of having a little bit of a pot that could be helpful?
I think it's a good idea and,
Sasha, can you hear? Okay,
I'm
perfect.
just wondering if we would set a certain price for everybody or.
Mhm.
How would you do that?
I think the idea in the past, it was like $20 per year per person. And if there's a couple might be $30. I don't remember. But always with the understanding, you know, if someone is in a place where they can't do it, amen. I mean, that will not invalidate your promises. But also, let me share with you what the Italian family has been doing. In anytime there is a family gathering in Italy, which actually happen probably 2-3 times a year. So they try to get together. Sometimes family members who cannot participate for whatever reason, they might just share a contribution saying, okay, I can't be there, but I would love to be there, but I can't because I can't get off work. I'm going to, donate some money so that someone else that might struggle to actually be there can actually afford being there. So there's never a limit. If someone is blessed financially and can provide, just know that that can work. And even with sisters, I mean, that money could be coming through us. And so we could be doing the end of the year statement. So it would be tax exempt. And just without revealing anything, but there is some family members who donated quite a bit of money for these events for someone to be here. So that's already going on behind the scenes. So we're very grateful to those family members that have been, donating money or picking up, a lot of expenses for this weekend. But I think that doing that so that everybody can contribute to the extent that they can, I think would be helpful. Does that make sense? Do you see that?
And I think that it's, we didn't charge for this event.
Correct.
Y'all had expenses to get here, and they're probably significant for some of you, lodging and travel and moving back and all these things. Normally, if you went on a retreat, you would pay, you paid for your lodging, which, if we were at Savior, you would pay for that lodging, so that, that was you did have that expense, so we didn't charge for this. But if we had this sort of pool of money, which we did have for this event, and this would be the way to kind of continue it, then we wouldn't have to add to the expense that you've already incurred, you can do it just like this.
Yeah.
There's already kind of this pot that sits there and then people just come forward and give us a little bit of extra and that kind of thing. So it wouldn't feel like such a burden all at once, because like I say, I know some of your travel and lodging is already a pretty significant ticket. That keeps us from having to charge for the food or the location or babysitting or whatever.
And in some places, it could even be that if the place that we end up choosing is close to some family member's house, they might be able to host some family members that are coming in with kids or from far away and say, hey, I have an extra 2 bedrooms, or my in-laws, they're empty nesters, they have this house and they're going to be gone for a month. And they said that anybody's welcome to stay. So let's be creative in the way we think. And because that can be very helpful. Michelle?
I think, one other thing, again, I don't have these skills, but I think one of the challenges in the past was how to collect it, because like, people were like, well, do I have to write a check, can I just pay for it online, can I, so if we get.
Yeah.
Make that more convenient for people.
Yes.
Venmo's number.
Yeah.
PayPal, whatever.
So now the way, just so that for full transparency, the way this money is now sitting on the sisters' bank account. So every time we're paying something for the family, I just use my credit card. And then I just tell the council, okay, of those $3,000, I just used $600 for this, right? And now we have 2,400. And so that's what I've been doing every time to be fully transparent. But we have set up already on our website, on the sisters website, there's a link which is hidden. No one has it, but so it's not on the website, but it's a link that would send money to a fund called ABI Family. Now, we never used it. We set it up, we never used it. So if we were to come to bring back this, we would just send this link and say, okay, here's the link. That's where you will put your contribution, and someone can put $20. Someone can say, this year I can actually put $100, and no one will say anything about that. And that money will go directly in that fund.
I think that will help.
Yeah.
It's kind of just a lot of
Yeah.
confusion of when and how and.
Yeah. And then one day when the family, ABI family, if we get to that point where it will be able to have its own legal status, which right now it doesn't have it, but if we will get to that point, then we could open a bank account on the ABI family. Now we cannot. So that's why that money is sitting on our bank accounts. But that's what we're thinking moving forward one day. Kevin.
And I'm just checking with others to see if it's same to them. I know in this country, I'm used to paying dues. Dues is not a word that
Okay.
has any negative connotation.
Okay.
I pay dues to the Knights of Columbus annually.
Okay.
I pay dues for the Society for the Preservation and Encouragement of Barbershop Quartet Singing in American Corporation. You know, annually. Dues is.
Okay.
Is.
That's good. If you guys are fine with that word, yeah.
I think what happened with that, and again, it doesn't really bother me, but there was this kind of like, well, what am I getting out of this kind of thing? You know? So, I mean, I do think the word contribution is a little bit more, softer or
Mhm.
a little bit better connotation to it, but I personally am not upset with dues, but
Okay, yeah.
I think that was kind of something we were like,
Yeah,
Okay.
we also knew what we were getting for it, and all we have to do is
Yeah.
somehow it's, you're getting the possibility of Zoom meetings on a national Zoom account. You know,
Yes.
you've got the possibility, all the.
Yeah, because before we were using someone's personal account and they needed it, and so it was really hard. Killen?
I'm hesitant about the word dues because I think it's connected to belonging, right? So in a lot of places you pay dues to get in. Whereas here, I wouldn't want anybody to think that your
That's a good
belonging
point.
is predicated on whether you pay or not, right? So.
That's a very good point.
To me, it reminds me of like book backs, but like, and everybody has everything in. common.
Oh, yes. Amen. Like that. Yes. Mhm. Fun or fund. But we're gonna have a lot of fun. That's coming tonight. Okay, so I can't believe we are, first miracle, we are right on time. But Sasha, I hate to put you on the spot, but we would love to hear just even a few words from you. If you want to introduce yourself, I don't know if everybody here knows you, since you've traveled a little bit. And by the way, it's on my radar screen to eventually come down to Florida to see you on one of my trips. So just want you to know, not because you're close to the water, don't believe that, just because I want to see you. Okay, we'd love to hear from you.
Of course. I'm sorry I've been out cutting the grass all day. But I'm Sasha Conrad. I joined the family in 2009. I met the sisters while I was doing some post-grad stuff at KU. And I have most recently really benefited from the Saturday morning group, the small group that I have. Not so much lately because my boys were both in soccer, but as I was listening to all of you speak, when I was reading the Rule of Life, these things have remained such an integral part of who I am, whether I've been in regular contact or not, and sometimes I do better than others. I don't mind at all the idea of dues, but contribution is fine. I love that this spiritual family exists all the time. I offer my prayers in the morning, especially for the ABI sisters and for the community and my small group. And so I carry them with me each day, even if we don't stay in contact for, weeks or months at a time. But it was really, I had somebody the other day ask me how I came back into the faith, and I gave kind of a quick answer, but as I thought about it, it was because when I sat down to spiritual direction with Sister Elena in 2007, she taught me how to pray. And so many people, especially down here in the Bible Belt, talk about having this personal relationship with Jesus. And it sounds very Protestant-y in my head, but I understood the faith, and I thought I understood a lot of the tenets of the faith, but I did not have a personal relationship with the Lord. And so she taught me, how to spend time in prayer, and that meditation now for, how long is that? I can't count. 13, 14 years that, each day it's an integral part of my life. And to have this group of people. So it's not just like, well, that was so many years ago, and they taught me how to pray, and they established this community. Like, it still exists. And I still, even a couple days ago when Michelle reached out about something, and I told her, by the way, and so this is news to all of you, but we got here a year ago, and already my husband is being relocated for work. We're moving to Tampa. and I'm pregnant with our 7th child. So I was like, oh, well, we're moving to Tampa and I'm pregnant. And she called me at, 7:20 in the morning and we talked for half an hour, and we've been out of touch for a little while, but it was just, it brought tears to my eyes because this is, especially in a time in my life where I feel like I don't know a lot of people, and I have sought community with just whoever's in our parish and whoever's around here, like to be known, and truly known by people and loved by people, really has just given me such strength and such peace in times of turmoil that, that the family is very close to my heart.
Okay, okay, yeah, come on.
Thanks for making me cry again.
Okay, no, thank you.
When we finally settle wherever we're going in Tampa, if you'd like to come to Tampa, we'll have a wonderful reunion there. And I'm sorry that I couldn't be with you. It wasn't in the cards this year.
Yeah, 2025 in Colorado.
Okay.
Unless you want it at your house.
Okay, yes, so again, thank you so much, Sasha, for all these years of faithfulness. You moved around Ohio, Florida, Kansas, but it's beautiful to see you and your beautiful family as it growing. Michelle?
Well, I just want to wrap up a little bit with just look at your schedule. We're not done. I mean, this is like I'm so glad it's over. Y'all, this is wonderful. And now we're gonna have some fun, and there's dinner. Y'all can get together in groups. We need suggestions. It's chaotic out there, so try to get off of Main Street as best you can for dinner. But it's not on your own. There's small groups. I just want to thank you guys. Like a dream. So grateful for came together. And we just thank everybody for the trial and the effort and that you made. Thank you to the sisters for giving up your time and all that you put into it. Thank you for the cooks. All the bacon.
Yes, Maureen, thank you. Those cookies. You see this, Sasha? Yeah, that's really good cookies. Amen.
Thank you, Michelle, for.
Yes, for the rule of life.
And all of the work that Lala has done.
Yeah, and Michelle and the council. Literally everybody has been great. It's great.
Before the rest of the weekend, please take snacks to your home and the hotel. I can't eat all of that.
Yeah, we can't leave this here. And just so that you know, at 5 p.m. there is mass, the vigil mass. We sisters are gonna go to mass. And now the next appointment would be 8 p.m. for forced fun. That's how we call it, Sasha. So back at the main Airbnb. So we'll be there at 8 p.m. But party house, there we go. Party house at 8 p.m. So we sisters are gonna do some adoration before and after mass, and then dinner, if we can go out for dinner together. Someone is saying that there is is it called Crawfish Festival out there on Main Street, maybe something, or do whatever. So let's give each other a round of applause because this was great. So all of you. Ciao, Sasha. Thank you.
That needs to go away, so I don't have to.